With Season 5 coming to an end, and a new character in Doomfist just being introduced, the question I've kind of been asking myself is why? Not why isn't Overwatch a great game, because it is. It has a great cast of diverse characters that all seem to mesh well together, each one with their own story as to why they are who they are. They all have unique abilities and no one feels unusable. Pretty much every character is a viable option given the correct circumstances. But what's stopping Overwatch from climbing to the top of the esport ladder? There is something about Overwatch that shows true real potential, but something is stopping it from gaining that top crown and #1 ranking. It does everything right and seems like it will be a great esport to watch, very exciting with a variety of characters, all with unique special abilities. The maps are colorful and are usually one lane or objective maps, so they are easy to understand but are infused with strategy and depth for players who are truly skilled and willing to delve deeper into the meta. Now, it's not from a lack of support from the developers. As we've seen time and time again, Blizzard is one of those rare developers that actually care about making a great game with a great story. Blizzard's IPs are always polished and they take great pride in listening to the community about problems within their game. Blizzard isn't the problem. The problem is based on Overwatch as a game itself. By itself, Overwatch is a fun game, but there's a certain amount of randomness that is added that makes it hard to really make Overwatch truly competitive. Comparing Overwatch to the top esport in the FPS genre Counter-Strike is tough. A lot of what makes CS so fun to watch is it's easy to understand. There are 2 teams of 5 and each have an objective. The terrorist side is to try and plant the bomb or eliminate all of the counter-terrorists before the time is up. The counter-terrorist side has to either eliminate all the terrorists or defend the 2 bomb sites from the terrorist planning. This is simple and easy to follow. While I don't believe if you've never played an FPS you would understand it immediately, anyone who's played Call of Duty or Halo or any casual FPS player can understand this easily since the game mode as a whole is not very unique to Counter-Strike itself. Overwatch is an entirely different animal. Overwatch is a very hectic game, and while the 2 main game modes as a whole aren't hard to grasp, it's following the action taking place in the game that make it very hard to follow what's going on. Watching a competitive Overwatch game is like watching a splash of explosion and color vomited onto the screen. With characters flying all over the place, it seems as though there is no reason for a character's movement, almost akin to a chicken with its head cut off. There doesn't seem to be a reason why one character would be here instead of here, they're just where they are. Contrast to a game like Counter-Strike, where even if you don't know why, you know the player knows why he is where he is. Movement in a competitive scene is important. Imagine LeBron James playing basketball. He always knows where he is on the court and why he is where he is on the court. In Counter-Strike, Kenny S doesn't just move about to random positions, he strategically knows where he is going and readjusts if he sees he's at a disadvantage when moved to an open position, compared to Overwatch, where even though players know where they are going, the viewer doesn't. It's hard for the viewer to understand why a player made this movement decision instead of another one, and in the end, that's what's really important. For the viewer to be engaged, the viewer must understand why a player made that decision. If the viewer can't understand the decisions being made by the players, then it's hard for them to get into what's going on in the game. Now, this isn't all viewers. Seasoned players will know why one character uses their ult here instead of there, but to the regular viewer and even casual FPS players, Overwatch has proven to be a hard game to follow when spectating. Then there's the issue with the camera angles. Overwatch uses these first-person camera angles that become disorienting to the viewer. Let's take a Genji for example. Flipping to Genji's first-person view as he ults is very disorienting. Suddenly you're looking up at the sky, next you're dashing through characters while dodging explosions. It sounds awesome, but what it ends up looking like is if you strapped a GoPro to a gymnast's head. Same thing for a character like Tracer while she blinks in and out of enemy fire, making it difficult to follow. Now, I'm not saying eliminate the first-person camera for viewing entirely, but maybe having a dynamic camera above all of the action that is taking place will be better at capturing all of what's going on. Then there's the issue with commentary. Have you ever watched a pro Overwatch match? A sports shoutcaster plays a vital role in the viewing experience of a sport. Their job is to help the viewer follow along with what's going on and give insights as to what's happening in the game. They provide real-time stats for the players, maybe personal stories about the players, and expert analysis on the events transpiring within the game. But most importantly, it's to keep the viewer entertained while watching and to hype them up when a big play occurs. Now with esports, this has already been done, so it's not something that is exclusive to traditional sports, but the way Overwatch is set up, it's hard for announcers to accurately describe what's going on. It winds up being a garble of words and yelling that don't really describe anything, making it really hard for the viewer to follow along. Alts are a great way for commentators to get the viewer excited about what's happening, but the problem may be is that they are too frequent. They happen too often, and most of the time don't have a major impact on the action going on when you reach the pro level. Now look, I'm no expert on this kind of stuff, and there's a bunch more you can get into, like the enemy color, and it's hard to tell which one's the enemy and which one's on which team. Two tracers will look alike. But that aside, I'm just a fan who sees the potential and sees the vision Blizzard has for the game. It's truly incredible what they've done so far since the game's initial release, and improvements and adjustments are constantly being made. But for something to move forward and further improvements be made, I believe valid criticism is needed. As it stands, Overwatch is not ready to become an esport. Now granted, it's also a 1-year-old game, so to see it come this far is great. I love it. I love Overwatch. But for it to really compete against the Counter-Strikes in the League of the World, it needs to become more viewer friendly.